Goedemorgen allemaal. Good morning everybody. We gaan deze presentatie straks in het Engels geven. Ik zal kort even weer de introductie doen. We zijn heel erg blij dat we deze kennissessie kunnen houden met dit keer met Microsoft. Zij hebben eigenlijk vanaf het begin af aan van de coronacrisis heel veel informatie met ons gedeeld over het verloop van de zoekvragen, waar valt het stil, waar komt de vraag weer op, wat voor ons natuurlijk extreem belangrijk is om te weten of campagnes weer kunnen starten, of we daarmee verder kunnen. Dus dat is een hele waardevolle partner gebleken in deze tijd. Ik zal verder gaan in het Engels, excuseer mij vast daarvoor. I'd like to thank James, Matthijs, Camille, Stef, the whole team of Microsoft for helping us the past weeks, giving us a lot of information about the COVID-19 or corona crisis, and helping us to help our partners and our clients to start to perform better in this crisis. And they also have a great offer to start using Microsoft Ads. We will follow up at the end, but there's a great voucher available. We will make a recording of this webinar, and we will share the information later on. I here get some messages that some people can't follow, but the others are. So hopefully we will be able to share it afterwards. I think we'll do the introduction now. Stef is going to take over, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Roy. Good morning. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Stef Koedijk, and I'm an account manager for Microsoft Advertising in the Netherlands. So in this webinar, we'd like to walk you through what has happened in the travel industry across markets, also highlight some signs of recovery that we're seeing, but also dive deeper into the opportunities that are in the Netherlands specifically at the moment. And for actually all visualizations, we've used the most recent data to make sure that we capture the effects of the last 2 weeks as well. James, could I have the next slide, please? Great. So on this slide, you can see that COVID has changed consumer search behavior first, with purchase intent decreasing. So this could be seen in the 2 weeks leading up to the announcement already of lockdowns across Europe in the middle of March. And here consumers really held back their bookings of the holidays, waiting for clarity on relieving restrictions. But after these lockdowns went into place, we really see that the activity on the platform takes a further dip when advertisers start pausing marketing activities on the platform due to restrictions, but also lack of demand, of course. The interesting thing is that over the past 2 weeks, while restrictions are eased in France and Germany and the Netherlands, we do see the year-over-year declines decrease. And even though these are slight changes, as you can, for example, see in the Netherlands over the past 2 weeks, it is already a small indication of recovery in the travel industry on an all-up level. We expect to see some recovery in the UK in later stages as well, but this will be delayed a little bit because, of course, they went into lockdown a few weeks later and are in an earlier phase of the virus than some of the other European markets that we use. Could I have the next slide? Next slide, please, James.
Can you see it? Has it
Yes,
switched up?
perfect. Yes, it has changed for me.
Sorry, slight lag.
No problem. So to provide an at a glance, but also high-level signal about the current commercial viability of our travel marketplace across markets, as compared to times of relative normality, we make use of the MACD analysis, or moving average convergence divergence analysis. And this is a technical analysis that really looks at a marketplace index, which is a composite metrics built to reflect the behaviors in search volume, but also advertiser participation, auction activity, and searcher intent. So how to read this is that if you have the short-term averages represented by the blue lines, if these grow or break through the long-term averages represented by the red lines, this might be a sign of recovery. And France is probably the best example here. As you can see, the short-term averages clearly crossing through the long-term averages, but also then continuing this trend upwards towards the estimated normal levels. For the Netherlands, it is similar, but it has a little bit of a less strong trajectory, but there are clear signs of recovery in the travel marketplace in the Netherlands as well. The marketplace index in Germany is steadily increasing too, but this effect is weaker, and this is probably due to the fact that there are that the different provinces in Germany are in different phases of the virus, but also in different phases of easing restrictions. So we expect to see a little bit of a steadier increase in volumes there. As mentioned before, the UK is behind the other three displayed markets in terms of market recovery. So we expect to see some more recovery on a later stage. So for France, the Netherlands, and Germany, the recommendation is really that risk-tolerant advertisers could consider re-entering the marketplace by starting advertising activity again. And this is to capture a competitive advantage, and we'll have a closer look at this competitive advantage on a later slide as well. But first, let's dive a little bit deeper into the Dutch marketplace to see where this recovery is most significant. So based on the MACD analysis shown on the previous slide, we work with a traffic light system where an orange light indicates a strong move towards normality, and the green light being that normality, so normal levels. The red light is shown for branches where there might be a move upwards, but not significant enough to change it to an orange light and really say that it goes towards normal estimated levels. So on the next slide, we'll show an example as well. But as we discussed before, the Netherlands saw some signs of recovery on an all-up travel marketplace level. And this was mostly driven by an increase in consumer intent and searches in the vacation rental space. We do see some slight improvements in short breaks and holiday packages as well. And we expect that these two categories will probably shift to an orange light in the next 2 weeks if the trend there continues upwards. The other categories keep a red light for now, but it is interesting to have a look at the vacation rental space close up. Next slide, please. So the vacation rental space, this category consists of search terms such as huisje or villa huren, vakantieparken, bungalow, etc. And as you can see on the right side, the short-term averages, so the blue lines, were increasing from the beginning of the second week of April already. But this growth really gained momentum after the speech of the Prime Minister on April 21st, with some first easing of restrictions announced. And this momentum continued even after the 6th of May in that speech where more easing of restrictions were announced as well. So since then, there's been a significant push towards the normal levels of the marketplace index in the vacation rentals branch in the Netherlands. And based on this, again, the data points towards recovery, with the recommendation being that advertisers start scaling up activity in this category to capture a competitive advantage. But what is this competitive advantage exactly? That's what we'll explore on the next slide. So on this slide, we see that consumers reacted earlier than advertisers to the slowing of purchase activity in the travel space in the Netherlands. You see that searches decreased first, with consumers showing less intent, with clicks also following this trend. But that advertisers start pulling back from the auction mostly from the week of the lockdown itself in the middle of March, as can be seen in the ads shown per search, which is really an indication of advertiser activity in the marketplace. And consequently, due to the lower competition in the auction, of course, we see CPCs dropping considerably to minus 60% as compared to last year's CPCs. But the interesting point of this slide is that we see this trajectory in reverse now. Consumer intent grows around Rutte's speech about easing restrictions, with clicks and searches increasing over the past few weeks. And at the last week, we could actually see that the volumes in the vacation rental space in the Netherlands was around the levels of last year, which of course is a great sign. But the competition, on the other hand, in the auction, and thus also the CPCs, did not increase as strongly. So at the moment, the lion's share of the advantage of relatively normal levels or volumes at lower CPCs is captured by only a handful of advertisers in the Netherlands. And this is really where this competitive advantage is of starting your advertising activities again, because you'll benefit from the same levels of volume as last year, but at really lower costs. So of course, we'd also like to know which destinations Dutch consumers are looking at. And that's something I'd like to explore now. So the data used for this visualization really compares the average daily searches in the 2 weeks preceding the Prime Minister's speech on the 21st of April to the average daily searches of the 3 weeks after this press conference. And of course, although rumors about the easing of restrictions were spreading in the 2 days leading up to the conference already, the majority of the effect of the speech is really captured in the data. We also use data for both vacation rentals as well as holiday packages to get a clearer view of the preference in destinations for Dutch consumers. For example, Greece does not have as many holiday parks, so using holiday packages is a better data point. And what we see is that after the speech, holidays in the Netherlands saw a spike in traffic with over 200% growth in daily searches, which really confirms the previously held belief that staycations in the Netherlands would be an important driver of growth in the travel vertical. And actually, the levels at the moment are the same as they were last year, which again is a positive signal. Our expectation is that Sweden and Denmark are considered relatively safe destinations, where in Sweden consumers don't feel like they will be held to all kinds of restrictions while on holiday. And Denmark is of course praised internationally as well for their response to the pandemic and is thus perceived in the eyes of the consumer as a safer destination. For the more classical holiday destinations for Dutch consumers, such as France, Spain, Germany, Italy, and Greece, we see that consumers are increasingly interested in holidays after the speech. But even though there are restrictions in travel in place, we do see this increase, so that's quite interesting. The thing to take into account, though, is that the average daily searches are still significantly lower than they were last year, which is a key takeaway from this as well. So for Dutch consumers, staycations, but also safer destinations seem to be the most popular choices for a holiday at the moment. And next slide, please. So to summarize what we've discussed in the past few slides, our findings based on the travel vertical in the Netherlands and other major European markets is that we see that in the Netherlands and Germany and France, there are clear signals of recovery, with France and the Netherlands recovering more quickly than Germany due to this difference between the provinces. And the growth in the Netherlands is mostly driven by a strong increase in volume in the vacation rentals branch. And in this space specifically, and probably across markets that are in similar stages of the pandemic as well, there is a clear advantage for advertisers re-entering the auction as they profit from higher volumes, but at lower costs. And lastly, we also found that Dutch consumers prefer staycations or perceived safer destinations when looking for holidays at the moment. Now, for the rest of the webinar, James will walk you through some of the strategies you can adopt during these difficult times. So I'd like to hand over to James. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Stef. That's a really sort of super interesting first look at some of the cuts of data that we have. My piece is really about sort of how do you adapt to COVID-19 and what are the kind of the benefits of search during this time. I think, it's worth starting with this, quote about adaptability. That when times are good, you should be advertising, and when times are bad, you must advertise. I think at this time, it's more critical than ever that you don't pull back all of your spend and you know, draw up your the windows and stop all activity. We know that, of course, travel is going through a hell of a time, but you've just seen how things are already sort of moving to start to recover. So now really is the perfect time. But even if you are still one of those advertisers who's being cautious during this time, at least keeping sort of brand activity going so that when you are in a position to go more sort of full, you are still sort of in the minds of consumers and your brand retention will still be high. This is not the time to completely sort of walk away from advertising. And this is an interesting piece of sort of insight about how consumers are expecting advertisers and brands to behave. So the question is, you know, to what extent do you agree or disagree that brands should advertise as normal? For the countries that were available for this research, for UK, France, and Germany, for the most part, there is a very strong belief that advertisers should not be advertising as normal, and that actually what consumers are looking for is advertisers being able to respond to the crisis with a more empathetic message, and that they should be understanding what the situation is and that their advertising should reflect that. But just going dark or kind of trying to ignore the elephant in the room is generally not what people are looking for. I think it's always worth just highlighting sort of the benefit of search in general. When we look at, this is a piece of research that we've done across the US, but I think is still really sort of relevant for all verticals and markets. When we look at multi-touch attribution study, that what is the benefit of search then leading to a conversion later in the path to purchase, and when we're looking across lots of different types of paid media, including display and native, referrals, social and video, search is the one that really drives higher conversions, and on average is going to get 2.6 times more clicks than any other type of advertising. And I just highlighted here for travel in particular, so the average is 2.6, but travel is above the average with a 3x uplift. So now is the time to be thinking about search, even from just a branding perspective, is critical, because that will lead through to conversions. And we'll talk and touch a little bit about the changes in consumer behavior and how conversions might be delayed, but we'll get to that in a second. And I think it's important also just to think about, you know, this is a completely new way of life for all of us that we're having to adapt to. We've already heard from Stef about how the shift in travel has gone from international to domestic destinations, or those perceived safe destinations. But this is happening clearly across all industries. So the shift in retail from sort of global to local products and services. We're seeing a really interesting shift in automotive to renewable energies, where people are worried about future impact of petrol and diesel availability, and so looking for renewable energies and electric vehicles. And the shift in finance also to sort of safer investments. These are a sort of a snapshot of the times that we're living in, but it's also sort of a call to action for us not to be caught unaware. And so what we've done is pulled together a digital advertisers COVID guide to show the different opportunities that exist depending on where you are in your sort of marketing strategy, but also thinking about the different stages of us dealing with this crisis. So this guide is supposed to be sort of all-encompassing and has lots and lots of tips and information. The first bit is around the sort of the immediate strategy. What should you be doing in the sort of the today, the here and now, in order to start making adjustments? And the next bit is the kind of restoration strategy, and I would say this is where we're starting to shift from the immediate strategy of just dealing with the sort of the peak of the crisis, and now starting to look to, okay, how do we bounce back and recover, and what's the restoration strategy, and what is the new opportunities that we can see starting to emerge that Stef was kind of hinting at. Then obviously there are new opportunities. So not only is the market sort of starting to recover, but we've talked about the fact that there is an opportunity where it's slightly less competitive now, so you can take advantage of that. But what are some of the products that are available that you can start to use that will give you that advantage against the competition? And we also have some account health tips about, how to help prioritize smartly. What are the things that are going to be most useful to you depending on where you are in that journey? This is freely available. There's a link at the end of this for you to go and have a look and download. It's a very comprehensive guide, but I'm going to walk you through some of the pieces today. Now, one of the things that I'm not going to do is take you through the checklists. For each of these sections, there is a checklist which gives you a detailed sort of step-by-step process of things that you can do for the various advertising offers that we have for ads, keywords, audiences, bidding, and budget. That would be exceptionally boring for me to walk you through these, but just to say that these are available and that they're very sort of user-friendly, and they hit each of these pieces for the immediate actions, the restorative strategies, and so on. So you have a sort of a step-by-step process to help you during this time. So let's have a look at some of the immediate strategies and the things that you can do today. And I think one of the first ones to think about is how you modify your messaging. So clearly, what we said is that for the majority of consumers, they're looking for advertisers to be adaptive to what's going on right now, and not just post the same old ads as business as usual that kind of ignores the elephant in the room. So think about your copy and the creative for both search and native campaigns if you're using our native product in the UK or the US if you advertise in those countries. But how is your ad going to land with consumers? Is it still relevant? Is there a particular product that you want to highlight or focus on that is going to be more relevant to consumers? And how can you sort of deliver your message with empathy to understand what's going on? We also sort of recommend that you think about your image use. So if you look at the images that we used in this deck, for example, they're trying to be sympathetic to the situation, and so they're not large crowded scenes of people walking about, but they are more sort of scenes at home and people inside. Clearly, as we move out of lockdown, that is going to become less of an issue, but thinking about what's the message that you convey with your images is also important, just to take that into account. And particularly if you're a business that's doing something really helpful during these times, even as I said, as a branding initiative, if you are one of the travel companies that are helping people get back from abroad, for example, to be home with their loved ones, use that as an opportunity to make a powerful statement about how you're helping people during this crisis, in order to touch on the heartstrings of the people that you want to advertise to. They will remember that, and then when things do recover and you're able to start thinking about how you go after those people, remarketing and so on can be a really useful tool to do so. The other thing that we said is, automation is your friend here. We know that many companies are having to furlough or make sort of temporary or permanent redundancies, or they're losing staff resources. That is an unfortunate reality that many companies are having to deal with right now. Even if you're not having to furlough staff or make redundancies, everybody is, more stretched, more busy, has more things to do. And so the case for automation, I think, has never been stronger. The ability for you to be able to reduce the need for you to do manual optimization, but also for the AI that Microsoft Advertising has, and the algorithms can respond in real time so much quicker to new trends that are taking place. So things like responsive search ads. This gives you the ability to put in a few headlines and descriptions, and then the AI will go and run with those and will create the best performing ad based on what we see from performance. The AI can create something like 40,000 different possible permutations. So that's something that would take a human, an extraordinary amount of time to do. This way, it allows you to get the benefit of automation when you are time constrained, and focus on the key strategies that you really want to make sure that you do during this time. But the balance thing that I think we have to also sort of say here is that automation is a wonderful tool, but it can't do everything, and so you still need to have that manual check and just a sanity check with the human observer, making sure that having manual checks is a great way to just balance, to make sure that everything is okay and that you're not setting and then forgetting for your optimization. So as I said, we're kind of in the midst of going from the immediate actions now to thinking more about the restoration as we start to see the market recover. So what are the things that we can see here? And I think remarketing, if you do nothing else, remarketing is the one thing that you could do that would really help with your restoration strategy. One of the things that we are seeing and that we're hearing from clients sort of across the region in EMEA is that there is an uptick in clicks and of activity. Searches and clicks are happening, but not necessarily conversions. But it seems like there's a cautiousness from clients to commit to convert, but that there is then a couple of weeks delay, and then the conversions come through later. So whereas before, I think it's fair to say that search is very much a in the moment, intent driven. Somebody searches, they go to a website and they convert very quickly. We're starting to see more time put in between the initial search and the conversion. And so remarketing is your opportunity to be able to have a second chance to convert those people. They've already shown that intent, but you can then prompt them with an ad using remarketing in order to make sure that you encourage them to come back and actually to convert. The thing is, I think, there is a real need now to, if you've been using remarketing with us for a while, is to really have a good look at how long have you had your remarketing lists, and when were the audiences created. If you haven't had a look at it for a little while, your audiences might have started before COVID lockdowns, and therefore those people are probably not going to behave the same as people who came to your website during COVID. So this is definitely a time to sort of review your marketing lists, set up some new ones, think about the days that you have those audiences created for, and adapt their messaging accordingly in order to get them to come back. The other thing, we've talked about consumer behavior trends. There are so many things that are happening in very quick spikes. Just as one example, at the beginning of March, we saw a 20,000% increase in people searching for face masks. That's perhaps not surprising given the situation, but the point here is that there are many things that we can't necessarily predict. So making sure that you have the flexibility in your keyword strategy, using things like DSA and broad match in order to capture the things that might fall through the cracks of your normal keyword abilities, allows you to capture those things and is good for your restoration as you start to ease back. And then, again, if you're a company, and particularly we know as travel is harder hit than most industries, if you are, again, a bit more cautious right now and you're thinking about long-term marketplace considerations, there is a there's an understandable desire to pull back on all of your spend completely and to pause all activity. We highly recommend that you don't do that, and the reason is that the algorithms that we have need your campaigns to be running, even if it's just on a sort of a very minimal budget, in order for us to retain things like your quality score, in order for the algorithms that we use for things like broad match and dynamic search ads to keep indexing your campaigns and make sure that we are recrawling your website to ensure that we can find those gaps. If you completely go dark and switch all of your campaigns off, it's the algos can't continue to kind of maintain that retention of information. So even if you are being cautious, our strong recommendation is to reduce your spend, reduce your budget for your campaign, but don't switch it off completely. And keep your account structure as it is. There's no need to have a massive restructure, but if you are going to do that, then you will need to have higher budgets again in order to make sure that once you restructure or do some big sort of changes to your campaigns, that the algos then have the budget to be able to relearn the new normal for you. The other thing, if you haven't used our Google import tool, this can be a massive help. If you're doing all of your changes in Google, being able to import all of these things over to Microsoft Advertising is incredibly useful. It's an automated function. You can set it up to do it on a daily basis and to sync across different platforms. If you haven't used this, it's a very easy time saver. And so I also wanted to have a look at some of the new opportunities that we have from a product perspective that you can use to increase your traffic. I've already talked about responsive search ads, but this really is a sort of a great opportunity. This is a relatively new product for us. It is also part of the import functionality that we have with Google. So if you're using responsive search ads in Google, you can import directly into our platform. But the ability for you to be able to put in up to 15 headlines and 4 descriptions and then have all of those permutations run automatically for you, we've seen some really great results and ways to get much better impact in terms of what this means. And so, here's a case study from one of our customers in the UK. This is British Gas. They're a utilities company. They saw a 44% higher click-through rate compared to standard text ads, and now 14% of all of the traffic that they get with us comes through responsive search ads. And the big thing for them was that this meant that this was 2 hours a week that they were saving, that they would otherwise be spent doing manual optimizations for general account health and keywords. So in these times, when we are stretched, when we're time poor, using something like responsive search ads is a great way to think about how you can improve the efficiency of your campaigns. I also talked a little bit about dynamic search ads, and so we have had this for UK, France, and Germany for a couple of years now. It's great that I can sort of speak to you in the Netherlands that we're now piloting this. So this is available for anyone who wants to join the pilot. It's in open beta. So if you're using DSA with Google, again, now is a great time to start using it with us. And the benefit really for dynamic search ads is that it's a way for you to catch those keywords that fall through the cracks. Like I said, when things are so strange and changing so quickly, the fact that you might see a massive spike in a keyword that you're not currently bidding on or have in your sort of arsenal, this is a great way for you to capture those keywords in a way which is going to make sure that you get in front of those people. One of the things that we found, though, and particularly this applies, I would say, more to industries like finance or pharmaceutical, where they have very strict regulations on what they can and can't put in an ad, and they often have to have certain disclaimers and things like that. A lot of our advertisers were coming back and saying we can't use DSA because the moment that it's dynamic and that we can't have control over these things that we have to put in our ads, we're worried about not being compliant with industry standards. And so this is something that Google doesn't have, but that we have created, called dynamic search ads with static headlines. And effectively what this does is it gives you the control to do pre-approved ad titles and ad copy, so that you're limiting the amount of that is dynamic, that's created by the algorithm, but still gives you the benefits of being able to go after keywords that might not be necessarily in your pool of things that you're bidding on. And so particularly, again, in this kind of environment, if you are concerned about, you want to make sure that your messaging is empathetic and that it is a little bit more tightly controlled than what we might do in normal times, using static headlines is a great way to be able to still get the benefit of DSA without the concern that the ads being created might not be on brand for this moment in time. Action extensions. This is a really cool thing that we have had live for a couple of years now. It's available globally, but also clearly available in local language for the Netherlands. And again, this is something which is unique to us. You can't get this in Google, but we found it's been a really fantastic product to drive a particular call to action. So what this does is it places a button, an action button. We have about 70 or 75 different predefined actions that you can put into your ad, and then you can drive people through to a particular landing page. So this works really well in lots of different industries. So if you think about in the insurance industry, you might be looking to get a quote. In the automotive industry, it might be book a test drive. For travel, there's lots of ones where you can have a look at, booking a package, or you can download a brochure, or whatever it is that you're looking to push. You can drive people to that particular call to action, and we've seen that having that button really significantly increases the click-through rates on the ad, and gives you something that makes your ad stand out against the competition. These are not available just now, but I wanted to also give you a sort of a peek into what's coming and what should be arriving very shortly in the Netherlands. If you are doing advertising with us in some of our other European markets, so UK, France, Germany, these are all available now, but these will be coming in the next sort of month or two to the Netherlands, and so I wanted to give you that sort of heads up and visibility for things that you can start to think about as we go into those restorative strategies. So the first is, these are all different types of automated bidding strategies. So max conversions, target CPA, cost per acquisition, and target ROAS. So these are really designed for you to choose the metrics that you want to emphasize and to reduce the amount of manual optimization that you have to do. So if you want to make sure that as you come back in and to your restorative strategy, that you are going to go, from very little activity to go big, you might want to maximize your conversions and or maximize your clicks. You can do that. If you have a set acquisition number that you're working towards, or if you're looking to get a certain return on your ad spend, you can set those, and then the algos will work on your behalf in order to make sure that you hit those limits. And then this is one, image extensions. This is available globally, but also sort of with an eye to what's coming is multi-image extensions. Again, this is another thing which is available with Microsoft Advertising that isn't available on Google. And so it's a really cool way to make your ad stand out. You can put images directly into the ad. You can entice those customers with something that is sort of eye-catching. People, respond very well to images. We know that a picture paints 1,000 words. But it also helps you take up a lot more space on the SERP, and particularly in the mobile instance, which is what we're showing here, that can really make your ad stand out. This happens to be an automotive one, but you can imagine pictures of holiday destinations, or if you have a certain accommodation that you want to show off, you can use this for the destinations that you're looking to sell in travel. Or of course, if you're doing car hire, then actually pictures of the cars that you have is very useful. So image extensions is available globally, that you can start using that right now. The multi-image extensions, where you can have a carousel of images, which is what we're showing here. You can flick through multiple images, is currently in pilot, but will be coming will be expanding to other countries very soon. So that's it really from the product perspective. I wanted to just highlight again, we have this digital advertisers guide to COVID, which is available on our website. I put the link here, and we'll share this deck with you afterwards so that you can see all the slides, download the pieces and get to the links. And really this is focusing on those 4 sort of key buckets: the immediate strategy of things that you can do today, the restoration strategy, which we're starting to sort of come to now, how you can start to sort of bounce back, some of the new opportunities of how to increase your traffic, and then also having a look at your account health. And as I mentioned before, there's those big very sort of in-depth definitive checklists that help you go through step by step on lots of things that you can do. I've touched on just a few things here rather than going through everything, but I think there is a huge opportunity for you to make grounds in the platform where other advertisers are not going to be as quick to bounce back. The last thing I just want to talk about, and sort of Roy alluded to this at the beginning, in these times, it's more and more evident that we need to be considerate custodians of the planet, and that we all need to look out for each other. And so one of the investments that Microsoft is making is that we have pledged to be carbon negative by 2030. By 2050, we have pledged that we are going to remove all of our historical carbon emissions as a company. So from 1975, when the company was founded, we will pledge to remove all of our historical carbon emissions. And we've created a $1 billion climate innovation fund in order to help businesses use technology in a way that can help push for sustainability. One of the ways that Microsoft Advertising is helping with this initiative, and a simple way that you can participate towards this is we've pledged that for this year, in 2020, we're going to plant 250,000 trees with one of our advertising partners, which is Ecosia. Ecosia, for those of you who don't know, is a search engine that uses Bing as the sort of the engine and the power in the background, and so every time that someone makes a search, if they click on an ad which is powered by us, Ecosia makes money off that ad, and then they use all of the profits that they get in order to plant trees. We're helping them by planting an additional 250,000 trees in regions all across the globe, in Africa, in Burkina Faso, and in Uganda. And so we are also offering, for showing up to this webinar, that we are going to plant a tree on your behalf. But if you start sort of sharing and using some of the hashtags here for Microsoft for Ads, we'll also track that and we'll plant additional trees if you do so. I hope that was useful. Thank you very much for your time. And now we have about 15 minutes left to go to Q&A. So if there are any questions for either the content that Stef covered at the beginning or for myself, we'd be more than happy to take them.
Great. Thank you, James. Thank you for a very interesting presentation, and also the first step by just having people attending this webinar of planting a lot of trees. Great innovative way of helping the planet. Image extensions, I'm very enthusiastic about that as well. You talked about the elephant in the room. It is not mentioning the COVID crisis in your ads. In the Netherlands, the government talks about the new normal we are in now. When do you think this crisis will be the new normal, and should we change ads back then, or will this be something you should communicate upcoming months?
So my advice is that you should be open and talking about it now. I think the benefit of being in the Dutch market is that you already have a predisposition to being very direct, and so I think people will respond to that well, and so you can talk about what's going on right now and being empathetic in the moment. My view is that there will probably be a lingering effect even after lockdown has eased for a little while. People are going to, even once things kind of go back to normal, people are going to be a little bit more cautious, I think, for a couple of months. But then I fully expect that human nature being what it is, that people will just go back to the way they always have been. And so I think once we get past that, that bump, you can return to what you were doing before and do everything as you were. This is a moment in time where we're all in this unprecedented situation together. We're all trying to learn as fast as we can. The insights that Stef shared, some of those we were pulling literally just yesterday to give you the most up-to-date information. And the way that we're kind of doing this is adapting and being agile as quickly as we can to respond to what consumers are after. Okay.
And one question from the public. We are noticing a lot of sensitivity from consumers regarding communication. For example, enjoy your holiday, is sometimes inappropriate. How do you think companies should use their ads message?
Yeah, so I mean that's exactly what I mean. That one of those first tips about the immediate actions is you need to have a review of your ad copy messaging and just be sensitive to things like that. So enjoy your holiday. That's a very a great example of where ordinarily nobody would take offense at that, but that could be deemed to be a bit insensitive during these times. So I think as a very general rule, you should be sort of erring on the side of caution and keeping things formal rather than putting too much emotive language. But that said, you still want to come across as being human rather than robotic. And so I think it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, and that also depends on how, what is the overall tone of your company, right? How do you generally approach your advertising? Are you more formal, or are you a bit more informal or colloquial? And I think that this time people are still going to want you to be authentic. So I wouldn't recommend making wholesale changes if it goes against the core of what you are as a brand. But of course you have to be just thinking about how could this be misconstrued or interpreted, and probably just being a little bit more cautious with your messaging. If you're not sure about how is this going to land, That's why something like responsive search ads is such a great product, because you can put different types of titling and messaging, and then you can let the algorithm test all of those different combinations, and you'll see very, very quickly, which ones are working well and people are clicking on, and that gives you the confidence that actually what you're doing is the right thing.
Yeah, just testing and let the data show what is best.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one the Dutch people, of course, that said, you mentioned something about the coupons, of COVID-19 coupons. We can indeed offer our clients coupons. Can you to start or to invest in their campaign at the moment? Can you tell something more about that?
I'm going to hand over to my colleagues who are much more equipped to talk about the coupons. Matthias, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, sure. So the coupons are available for now, but actually we changed the amounts week over week. So the best advice is actually, Roy, to ask them actually to contact your agency, and we will provide you all the information and all the details actually around the coupons with you. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, and they're great deals, and some customers are starting now and try. James, you mentioned the elephant in the room. I think there's also an elephant in our room. Can you tell us something about the differences between Google and Bing? Why should we use or Bing or Microsoft Ads, of course?
Yeah.
Why should we use that at the moment? And are there differences in target groups or people using it?
Yeah, and look, we are very open to the competition, and of course, Google has a huge monopoly within search. They have a massive market share and advantage in terms of the overall scale and reach that they have. That said, there's still a huge opportunity with our platform, and it's still a very significant number of people that you're able to target. So we have a 9% PC market share in the Netherlands, which equates to still, I think, about certainly over 10 million people in the Netherlands searching on our platform on a monthly basis. And although those people aren't unique to us, they also search on Google. Why would you not want to be in front of those people when they do search on one of our properties? And that's not just Bing, that's also all of the properties that we power. So Yahoo, AOL, Ecosia, DuckDuckGo, all of these other places. The platforms, I don't think that they perform so differently. I think there is a misconception that it's only old people who use Bing, and that is actually is not the case. We do have a relative, I'd say about half of our audience is 35 or older, but that encompasses a wide spectrum of people. But that also means that half of our audience is under the age of 35. And then from a product philosophy, what we're trying to do is, as much as possible, to make it easy for advertisers to use us when we know that they're spending most of their time with Google. So I talked about Google Import. That's one of the easiest ways that you can bring all of your campaigns over very, very quickly and easily without having to do lots of optimization. And we are working extraordinarily hard to try and have parity with all of the key functions that people use in Google that they want to also see in our platform. At the same time, we're also trying to do things which are unique. So some of the things that I talked about, the DSA with static headlines, the image extensions and multi-image extensions, the LinkedIn profile targeting, which unfortunately is not available right now in the Netherlands, but it hopefully will be coming later this year. But it's something that is available in other markets.
Is it available in France and Germany?
It's available in UK, France, and Germany, and the US and some of our other English-speaking markets. So using LinkedIn data is an amazing targeting capability for us to be able to overlay some of that job function data or what industry people work in as a way to be able to target them. So it's a way to increase your reach. It's all of the things, all of the best bits of Google, and then some additional things as well, which are unique to us.
Yeah, I can indeed confirm it's a great addition for your SEA strategy, and you make it really easy to switch from your Google ads to the Microsoft ads. And why not take those additional 9% reach?
Yeah,
and indeed, sometimes average order values are higher, conversions are higher. So there are indeed some advantages. One last question, and I saw Stef already answered it. Google hotel ads, it will be available, or it is already available in some markets, I see. Will it be available in the Netherlands as well?
So I hope that we will have an update on that pretty soon. We're about, as we come into the summer months, that's when engineering do their kind of revisit the roadmap, and so we're waiting for an update on when that will be available in the Netherlands. But we're also, I think, we're a little bit cautious about expanding hotel ads during this current situation when demand might not be high, and also, customers, we don't want to be insensitive of trying to push a product at a time like this. So depending on how things recover, and if there is real appetite, if you're really interested in hotel ads, please do get in contact either directly with Red, or you can contact the Microsoft team. That gives us a good signal of when is the right time to start prioritizing it.
Yeah, great. Well, there might be a signal that people are now more aware of the position Booking.com has and more willing to push own website and website owners. So that might be a chance to improve the hotel ads on both platforms and increase traffic. Well, thanks a lot for the great presentation, for all the time you took, and the whole team. Also Stef, as I mentioned, Microsoft has been a great partner in sharing data, sharing a lot of knowledge about the crisis, how demand is going. The traffic lights are really helpful for us to give those signals back to our clients to start changing their advertising message again. It's really helpful. And I'd like to encourage everybody to contact us about the vouchers, because it's a great help to start using Microsoft Ads at the moment. And we will send everybody the presentation, recordings, and all the data. Thanks a lot, James.
Thank you.
And the whole team of Stef, Matthijs, and everybody attending. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.